Welcome to today's Stewardship Conversation. I'm Pastor David Drebus of College Lutheran Church, and I'm here with Maria and Josh Sherman, longtime members of our parish, and we're going to be talking about stewardship, which is what do we do with the blessings God has given us? And our theme for this November is stepping back and stepping up, especially with our current global circumstances. We've had to step back in some ways, and we've also been called to step up in ways we wouldn't have anticipated before all this started. So before we get into that conversation, I'll just briefly introduce Maria and Josh. They've been longtime members of College Lutheran Church. Maria, since she was 10 years old, so she really grew up at College Lutheran Church. Josh came to us in 2008. Over the years, they've been involved in many ways in the life of our parish. They've helped out with youth group. Maria serves on our church council right now. They've taught Sunday school and confirmation. But if you've seen them around, it's most likely in their capacity as musicians who share their talents with our congregation. So that's what you're probably most aware of if you've seen Josh and Maria helping out around the church. Well, my first question for you is what I've already mentioned. Since the pandemic hit, have you had to step back in any ways in your daily life or in your church life or your work life? What are some ways that you've had to step back because of our current circumstances?
Well, there have been lots of ways we've had to step back, but the only one that really matters to me is not being able to see family. I haven't seen my dad since the pandemic started back in February, and that is difficult for me to deal with. Sometimes we talk to him every week, we play cards on the computer, but it's not the same.
It's not.
So for me, it would be the same thing. I purposely did not go to visit neither of my parents because of the COVID pandemic. It was really hard not being able to see them. There were times where they were inviting us, and we purposely refrained from gathering because we just didn't want there to be any chance of spreading any disease. So, that was definitely hard.
Yeah, that's been one of the toughest things about the pandemic, I think. And that's a stepping back that you have to convince yourself and remind yourself that it's to help somebody else. But it's almost holding back a gift that we have, which is that gift of being present with someone else. And yet right now, it's still, we have to be much more careful than we're used to about how we share that gift.
And it's hard for them to understand that
Sure.
We don't want to go to Thanksgiving with 20 people in a small house. Even though we would love to be there, it's not a safe thing for us to be there spreading germs to them.
Yeah. It's hard even when you know it's the right thing. Yeah. Well, in terms of your life with our parish, our church life, are there ways you've had to step back from things you used to do, ways you used to be involved in the life of our church?
Obviously, a choir was no longer available, so that would be, one thing that we definitely missed, being a part of a group of others. Those were people that I miss. Not just choir, but really just anybody in general that you aren't allowed to be near. Shaking hands, giving people hugs, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of hard. And for me personally, I work remotely, so it was kind of good that I had already been used to working remotely, but I also had this time where I was able to go have lunch with people and see people and getting out of the house, having those routines, and then to just be where I had no getting out of the house. So that was kind of hard.
Yeah.
So.
I miss trivia night.
It's a unique element of life at College Lutheran Church. Yeah, I miss that too. Well, I know it's one of those cheesy church phrases that gets on a lot of pastors' nerves, but we do say, when one door closes, another opens, that sort of thing. And I have found that to be true, even in all this time of closed doors, everywhere we look. There have been some new possibilities opening up. And I'm curious about ways you've found yourself stepping up in ways you wouldn't have thought about, before March 13th, 2020. Are there ways you've felt called to step up?
Well, certainly at church, we've spent a lot of time working on the sound system for the drive-in services, and it's been a real blessing being able to provide that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the two things that I've felt like I could contribute to was trying to keep the website as up to date with all the emails, so that those links were when I got the email in the morning, I would post it to the news page to make sure everybody could get access to those, because we had a lot of online content that you guys did such a great job with. So that was one thing that made me feel good that I was helping during this time. And the other was obviously the music. Being asked, even before we were doing the drive-in, to contribute to some recordings, that was a great outlet. I mean, we weren't getting out, we weren't doing music out, but to still have that outlet to be able to record and provide that music was really good for me personally. And I know it was good for others too, so.
Yeah, that's one thing I guess we haven't mentioned before. Y'all often play different venues around the Roanoke area and beyond, and that was part of your life before. Has some of that started to come back for you as things have opened up, or what's
a little bit?
We purposely aren't really seeking anything still because there's just too much going on right now, I think, with COVID. So we're just kind of stepping back from that. Yeah. But we did get a call. The Valhalla was looking for to see if we were available. So when it was outside and they were doing a good job with the masks and stuff, so we felt comfortable, and we did get to do two times there.
We've only done outside gigs.
Yeah,
I think that's smart. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know a lot of folks. I mean, you both have day jobs, but you're also artists, and this has been a very disruptive time for a lot of musicians and folks involved in entertainment arts. How has it been navigating changes in finances? And if you feel comfortable talking about ways you've supported the church in the past, I think it would be helpful for folks to hear how you've had to adjust ways you financially support the church during this topsy-turvy time.
Yeah, so we pledge every year, but this year, normally we would write a check and put it in the offering plate. And we've been very blessed with our finances. And I thank God for the continued income that we have. But our income has been uneven this year. And so anytime one of us gets paid, we will go online and give 10% to that. And it's been a little bit easier, not trying to, have we made our pledge yet? How much do we have enough to write our regular check? We just, every time we get it paid, it's helped.
That's good to hear. So the online giving portal's been helpful for that.
It has been, yes, very much so.
That's good to know.
Convenient.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Since you've pledged in the past, I hope you're planning to pledge for 2021. It's a big help to us in leadership of the church when we have an idea of what to expect in giving. So thank you for that. We also know that, well, a lot of people pledged about this time last year, and we had no idea a pandemic was coming. So we know folks have to make adjustments when things happen in the world. And that's why I've been drawn to Psalm 37, verse 23, as I've been thinking about planning for the year ahead and what we've had to do in 2020 so far. Here's the promise in Psalm 37. Our steps are made firm by the Lord. When he delights in our way, though we stumble, we shall not fall headlong, for the Lord holds us by the hand. I think that's a good message for us to keep in mind with all the ways we've had to step back from things that we love. Gifts we're used to sharing, we've had to get practiced at not sharing them. And that's a tough fit for people who love sharing their gifts with others. But we've also got to be open for those ways that God is calling us to step up, things we wouldn't have anticipated before all this. So I'm so glad you guys are along for the ride, for this journey with our congregation through this, this challenging time, but this time full of promises and possibilities. Thank you for sharing a bit of your story with us today.
Of course.